everyone, and welcome to our Circle and Salve Women. For my one-on-one discussion today, it is going to cover my article. No, it's not Karen, it's Victor. And so again, as I mentioned, I'm joining the name calling club, but really in the light and far from hopefully any form of darkness. And I hope that you will agree with me once I'm done with this talk today. And yes, we can relate to the Karens. In fact, I had to look that up on dictionary.com and understand now that because of COVID times, all of these restrictions, we are going to make that historical mark. Now, Karens are referring to anyone who is promoting some kind of bad behavior, same as a Becky or a Stacy. And you know, we can relate to those, right? And I even have apologized that in my own times in life, I perhaps have acted like a Karen, hopefully not like a Becky or a Stacy at all. I don't think to myself as a Stacy at all. Look that up if you don't know it, because I had to look it up myself. Anyhow, I am joining the name calling club, but I'm going to now bring to life Victor. And for me, it is important to really identify these types of people, whether it be a she or a he, because to me, a Victor is one that needs to be acknowledged, and therefore we need to recognize these when they are out there, out and about, because perhaps they are the most unrecognized, and yet they should be really looked upon with some great light and honor. Let me share with you a story. It's a little bit deep for me, so I'm not going to get hopefully into dramatics of it, and I apologize if it seems like it, but it's just really matter of fact. A story that I lived through very shortly in a moment that I had with my papa. We were at church, and I already was aware that there were going to be people out there, not a lot, but you know, a few that would be out there asking for alms, because they usually are there before church begins, but there's a lot more once the service, or excuse me, the mass is done. And I remember my papa holding on to my hand, as he normally did, as we would walk down the steps. And, you know, there was that one time where this boy was smiling at me. He was about my age. And so that's perhaps one of the reasons why he caught my eye, because, you know, he could have been my friend in school, or if at that time I hadn't gone to school yet. But again, just looking at him, seeing that he was about my age. But in addition to that, he gave me a very gentle, genuine smile. And that, to me, you know, I pray till this day, like I hope I had returned a smile back. However, I was a bit distracted by what the hand that he was holding up. There was a lady next to him who had to have been his grandmother's, you know, because she was more of that age rather than his mother. And when I looked at her hands that he was holding up, he was holding up her left hand. She had no fingers. And I didn't want to be rude. I didn't want to make it seem like, oh my gosh, I've never seen that before, even though I had never seen that before. But I didn't want to make it seem like I was reacting in a rude manner. And so I kind of looked just through my peripheral vision. And, you know, as we were walking by, I was hearing him speak, and I was hearing the lady as well, muffling some words. And I couldn't help, because I really wanted to read her lips, that when I looked, just, you know, a quick glance to read her lips, I noticed that she had no tongue. And, you know, at that point, I was completely stumped. Like I didn't even know how else to react other than just to keep moving forward and, you know, walking down the steps with my papa. But being young, I must have been like 5 years old then, as we were waiting for our ride to, you know, our transportation, I couldn't help but look back and just wondering what had happened to the young boy and the lady and, you know, the old woman. And when I looked, I had seen that they were already on the side of at the side of the church, and I saw that they were counting their, you know, whatever they had received that day. And I then took note that the boy was taller than the older woman. And so as I looked, I saw that she was standing, but she was standing on stumps. She had no legs. And so she, you know, she had some sackcloth on her legs and a long, what seemingly looked like a long gown. And it hit me that this woman did not have fingers, did not have a tongue and did not have legs. And yet I still recall to this day, smiled at me just as much as that young boy had. And my papa must have known. I don't recall if I had asked him what had happened, but he must have seen me watching. And so he told me that, unfortunately, the old woman was an aftermath of war. And I later confirmed this because those are things that you kind of bury deep, just things that you don't want to have to think about all the time. Because at the age of 5, it was something that I was not aware of that happens in this world, and I perhaps did not want to accept yet, so I buried it. And I remember, I want to say I was in college when the World Wide Web started to come about, right? And I could, then start to look things up by myself secretly out of my own curiosities. And, having worked at the library when I was in high school, in college, it really gave me that freedom to look up things on my own. And yes, when I, just quickly looked up some books or looked at some things, at websites, I did confirm that those things do happen. And it was a very sad moment for me to discover that not only do those things happen, but other types of activities that happen when someone is caught in the midst of war, and the type of treatments that they get. I'd rather use that word than any other word. So anyhow, that to me is why I have come up with the name Victor. Let me explain to you why. By definition, and I'm just going to summarize this, a victor is someone who has overcome any battles, any type of actions upon them that have really was perhaps made for them to not overcome, to challenge them, and to go further beyond it. And what I really see as a victor is someone who is going through the motion and knowing that they have chosen to live no matter what, that they have chosen to win no matter what, that they have chosen to overcome whatever it is that's before them no matter what, whatever their purpose is, whether it be for them or for their family, or for those that are looking at them, that they have chosen life. And when I look back to this lady, because I'm at the age now where I'm mature enough, my feelings are mature enough, my heart is strong enough to look back and recall that time, I can only remember this old woman smiling at me, again with that gentle smile, and then recalling that that boy had smiled at me with that gentle smile. And I realize now that she had passed on that seed for that young boy to smile. Because any of us who want to be judgmental and cannot help but be judgmental in a life that is living in that way, in that manner, in that type of environment, perhaps, we would have to think, what is there? What reason do you have to live if you are living in such circumstance that they did not choose? You have to understand, a person did not line up to say, please cut my fingers off, please cut my tongue, please, take away and sever these legs. She found herself in that situation, and she had to make a choice to keep going. And I think of the people in this world who we may not know what's going on in their lives, and yet all of a sudden they have made a choice in their mind, and they could be walking around as if we are so quick to judge them, because we don't always see fingers being taken, a tongue being taken, or a leg being taken. But there are people whose spirits and souls are that way, and they have lived a life where many things have been taken from them and we don't see, but they have chosen to really keep going. They've chosen to win. They've chosen to overcome. They've chosen strength rather than weakness. And so for me, I look for those people, not because I want drama. It's because they strengthen me. They make me realize you know, honestly, in looking back, whenever I want to find something to get, you know, buried in darkness and, you know, feel sorry about, that old woman would look back at me with a smile, and then everything just kind of goes, oh, be quiet, Anne. You know, I mean, it's just gives me that strength that I have no excuse, because no matter what I'm going through, I did not go through that. And yet that woman chose to live, and not only that, but choose to pass on her goodness to that young boy who can walk around and smile. And I know they didn't get much that day. You know, how many of us give a lot, right? And so when I see people, when I get a chance, I like to talk to people who may be at a grocery store, who may be standing in a corner, you know, just whenever I get a chance, when I'm by myself, you know, and when I'm not always with my family. I learn a lot by listening to other people in their lives, and you can really tell when someone is genuinely a fighter, because they don't complain about it. They actually sound victorious of their lives, and they make it to be like, you know what, I got this. And it's amazing the strength that you get from a victor, because they think like a champion. They think and act and speak like someone who has won so many times over, and they don't wallow in it. They don't feel sorry for themselves. They don't sit there and complain about the world. They really see it as, it was my challenge. It was for me to fight, and I battled, and I chose to win. And you may not see me as a winner, but because I overcame it, then therefore I have won. And hopefully you can relate to those victors in this world that really goes out there and just goes. And maybe they even manage a smile, and you know, by chance, by word, by rumor, or hopefully it was the truth, you know, sadly, but that you've realized that they have overcome a lot. And so this goes to my teacher in high school. In my senior year, he was my victor, and I know I did not mention him in my article, but one of these days I will definitely shed some light to the very few that have made me who I am today. I know that when I had written a book, I had thanked him already, but I remember Mr. Nicholson had stated to me, you know, if you just come to class, you'd get yourself that A. He believes so much in my writing. I was having, one of those years where I wasn't always making it to school on a daily basis, and it was affecting my grade. And I recall there were few people that were talking about him out in the hallway or so. And I didn't know anything about his life. And all of a sudden, my friend Olivia, who is an outspoken lady who I always respected for that, said, you guys, you know what? I wouldn't be speaking about, Mr. Nicholson, because he actually lost his wife and his child to a car accident, and it was a drunk driver that hit him. And at that point, I had to be in silence because I didn't know that he had that story. And yet he remained to be this teacher to me who took the time to say, if you just came to class every day, you'd get that A. And he did give me that A. It was actually an A- because I didn't come to class every day. But he believes so much in my writing and in my work that I know he silently just was trying to give me that message that he believed in me without having to say it. And I don't even know that I earned that A-, but it was his way of saying he believed in me. And so he is my victor. He is one of the victors, very few in my life that I know personally, because when I learned that story, I realized that he overcame something huge that I would never want upon anybody, not even anyone who deems to be an enemy of mine. I would want everyone to have to go through, peace, right? And not have to go through so much hurt, because that is something that you wouldn't want for anyone to have to try to even overcome. Why? When our lives are lost. So there goes my definition of victor today. Hopefully you've gotten enough. Hopefully you understand that when you are out there looking at someone who has really just smiles every day, you take a time to ask them, why do you smile every day? What is your life like? What can you tell me about your life? Take a moment. Doesn't take long. For right away, you will hear their lives, and you will be able to understand the genuine words coming out of their mouths, and you'll know how real they are, because they're either going to be complaining about it, or they're going to talk about it with so much love, so much affection, so much compassion, so much forgiveness, so much strength in their words. And they have beat out anything that was meant to kill them or destroy them. And they didn't. They chose life. They choose to move forward. And no matter what, they walk around really making this world a better place, because we need those victors. We know those people that give us no excuse but to keep going. And that is my definition of victor. Keep looking for yours if you haven't found them already, and take the time to acknowledge them and let them know that they make this world a better place. So in the words of my mother, God bless us all. Thank you so much for your time today. See you next time.